Hello. Your next yoga wheel session is going to be focusing on the hamstrings. So with that in mind, you'll certainly need your yoga wheel, 2 blocks, bricks or books, anything that will do that will be really helpful. If you do have a knee support, then you might want to grab that as well. But don't worry if you don't have one, you don't need it, it's just we'll be spending a little bit of time on one knee. Okay, let's get started. Place your left knee onto the knee support, coming into a high kneel. And we're going to, with our hands on the yoga bricks, place the right foot on top of the yoga wheel. So we're already starting just to explore that right hip, right hamstring. Now take your time to find your balance. I have found when working with the yoga wheel that alignment is really important. Well, alignment is always important in yoga, but actually really thinking about the alignment to help us balance with the yoga wheel, because we're always having to do those little adjustments on it. So see if you can really wrap your toes on top of that wheel, get a good foundation, really root into it, just as you would root in to any standing pose. Now start to find the hips, sending them forwards, and when you feel comfortable and you've got your balance, raise your chest. Send your hips forwards a little bit further, maybe dropping them, getting into those hip flexors and exploring this stretch here. Now you can stay here, try not to scoop forwards so you can lengthen through the spine, or we can start to slowly bring those blocks back. So I'm just inching them slowly back, and that's going to encourage the spine to come along, chest to lift, and shoulders to drop down the back. All the while, send those hips forward, so really drop them and push them gently forwards. Have fun with this pose, maybe explore if you can take the blocks a little bit further back. Now as you do those shoulders start to drop further back and the chest opens. Just notice if you're easing off, if you're tending to pull the hips back, and if so, then just find your limit and work to that. Perhaps we can now bring them in line with the hips. Can those blocks go in line? Really nice and tall now. Breathing into this opener. Maybe you want to explore a back bend, so you can take your hands even further back, tracing them back with the blocks. Inhale, and as you exhale, really send the hips forwards, getting into the quadricep of that left thigh, that front thigh muscle. You'll be feeling that across the front there. Stay here, wherever you are, for 2 breaths. And we'll reverse that, so just slowly inching those blocks forwards, noticing how that right hip is feeling. And once you get back to pretty much where we started, keep the blocks where they are and start to roll and extend that right leg. So now we're on to the top of the wheel with your Achilles heel, so the back of your ankle is on the yoga wheel. Keep the hips square, so you might need to draw back that right hip crease a little, and by all means we can roll backwards and forwards a little. See if you can drop your belly a little and really take your shoulders away from your ears to lengthen to the spine. This is a lovely one for all you runners out there. Anybody who particularly finds that their hamstrings, or cyclists, need a good stretch before or after exercise. Now stay exactly where you are with that right leg. Pick up the left foot and turn the left shin 90 degrees, and we're going to take the blocks with us. Okay, so now facing the front of the mat. Now what's important here is the right knee and the right toes are facing upwards, so we've got a nice openness in the right hip. Hands on the block, gently open out in the inner right thigh now. Doesn't need to be much of a movement. Just find your stability. So you're still using those blocks to help you balance on the wheel. And you can stay here, but if you feel quite confident with your balance, maybe we can come all the way up, take the right hand, palm facing upwards, onto the top of that right leg. Left arm reaches up, and as we exhale, we're going to come up and over. So it's a little bit like gate pose in yoga, but it's more dynamic because we've got the ability now to roll through and open further through that left inner thigh. So have a little explore here, see what feels good. Check that left shoulder has not dropped forwards. Find a place where you feel a good stretch and then find stillness here. So just rest and breathe. So good practice for box splits, opening out the inner thigh, a wide leg forward fold. One more breath and slowly reverse that. Place your hands back on the block. Carefully lift that right leg. Swing it round. Many of the knee support. Place the hands on the yoga wheels. Sit back in your child's pose. So heels back. Take your sit bones down to the heels and let the forehead drop. Slow, full breaths here. When you're ready, go to move on to the other side. So move that knee support over to the right, with the right knee that goes onto that. As your hands come to the blocks, you'll find that the left foot is going to find the top of your yoga wheel. No rush here. Sinking those hips forwards. Just exploring. Now that foot, that wheel might be quite a bit further away than mine is, and that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about how far away it is. You may want to set yourself higher up on more blocks, and that's fine too. So just gently pushing the hips forward, really exploring this before we move any deeper. And once you feel comfortable in your alignment, that's when we can start to take the chest up. Because as we take the chest up, we're feeling a little bit more pressure on that front foot onto the wheel. Start walking those blocks back so that we can lengthen the spine, lifting the chest while sinking back in the heels. If you don't want to come to the back bend, that's not a problem. We can stay working here with the blocks in line with the hips, just making sure that left hip and the right hip are both pushing forward, so we're not just dropping into the left hip. But if you do want to come a little bit deeper, we can walk those blocks a little bit further back, squeezing the shoulder blades, opening the chest, taking the chin up. Just taking the time to reverse. So as you walk the blocks back, perhaps you find a spot that you want to work on. And returning back to centre. So we're now going to slowly extend the left leg. So as you roll and extend that left leg, the wheel will come to the Achilles heel. Dial the left toes up so we've got an active foot. And gently roll that left leg forwards. So you can feel a stretch through the back of the leg. But you feel stable, and you're using those blocks just to keep you nice and stable here. Good. Now I'm going to move to the back. So you're going to lift your left foot, dial it 90 degrees. Take your blocks with you. And remember that this raised leg, so that was your right leg, wasn't it? My apologies. Your raised left leg, the toes are facing up and the knees facing up. So we're coming into that side stretch now. So just working here. Keep the foot active will help you to dial the toes up just so that we're not dropping the hip. And you can stay with your hands on the block. Or if your balance feels good, we can let the top of the left hand come down onto that left leg, raising the right arm, draw back your right shoulder and slowly extend and come back, just working through. So for balance, my tip is, if you're feeling a little bit wobbly and you're worried about your balance, look down. That's going to help you keep a good balance on this wheel. Looking up is good to help you open out in that right shoulder. So when you feel a good stretch, see if you can hold here, breathing and enjoying. Slowly reversing that as we come back to centre, lifting your left leg off, taking your hands once more to your wheels, sinking your hips back to the heels. Let's take an extended child's pose. So keeping the hands on top of the wheel, you can hold them or put them in prayer position, whatever feels good for you. Allow your chest to come down, so we've got a nice opening in the shoulders. Close the eyes, take a breath in. And as you release, just release all of that tension that you might be holding in the upper body and let the hips relax. In your own time, we'll slowly roll back up to centre. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that hamstring stretch. Namaste.